It's happened. Fall is here. I gave in. Pulled out the jeans. Even though it's bright and beautiful out today, guy's out there mowing his lawn. Traffic, sun's out, beating down on my bald head, semi-bald head. It's supposed to be the 40s and 50s today, so the jeans came out. This is DaVo. Hi. Welcome to vlog number 10. It's my second take. I had a teacher once who talked about writing, and he said, write everything that comes out of your head down and then throw it away. At least the first two paragraphs. Because the first two paragraphs are about getting your flow going. It took me a long time to learn that. I think whenever you do anything artistic, you tend to... It takes you a while to learn how to edit. I think that's the hardest thing to learn. There's a number of bands I get demos from, or links now. Back in the day, it was demo tapes and CDs. And honestly, I've passed on because no one knew how to edit. Nobody knew how to stand there and go, you don't need this part. This part isn't working. You need to move on to something else. Anyway, so that's my 10th blog. Going to do a few things today. First off, it's not going to be as long, hopefully, as the last one. And it's not going to be as dark. The subject matter is not going to be something as controversial. I'm not angry about anything today yet. Give me time. Something will click it. And it's okay to be angry, people. It's how you react to the anger that makes the difference. So today, I'm going to be talking about a few things. We'll have a rant, because that's my thing. Before I get to that, I want to bring up one thing. If you're in the Des Moines area, there is a show you should see, especially if you like the punk rocks. Bruiser Queen, garage punk, fronted by female, and Thea, I believe is how it's pronounced, from Texas. They mix kind of that more militant, not really hardcore militant, but middle of the ground, feminism, riot girl thing with Hispanic or Chicano culture. It's going to be Tuesday. It's all ages, so you can bring the kids from 5 to 9. Tickets are on sale at Midwest Tix. You should check that show out. Also, in this one, we will have some footage from 3 bands, because I'm kind of sticking to this 3-band format. First band, local band, punk band, Hookshot. Got some footage of them. Then I've got some footage of something I think is pretty interesting and I was kind of blown away by. A band that played Saturday night called R.I. Letter. And finally, some very interesting stuff from Theartre reunion. So I was listening to NPR a couple days ago. Yeah, I'm one of those people that listens to NPR. I should probably explain this. The only time I listen to really radio is in the car. I might listen to some podcasts occasionally, like the local one, Pants Off Podcast, which you can find on SoundCloud. Brian does a fabulous job on that. Encompasses everything that is music-oriented in the Des Moines area and some national stuff, interviews and so forth. Really cool stuff. You should check it out if you haven't already. And then Twit, This Week in Tech, because I am a geek. Deep down inside, I am a geek. And I don't mean that in like a, hey, I'm a geek. I mean that in, I love technology. I think it does wonderful things, and I like to hear about it. Even though it's the last 5 or 6 years, it's turned into the Apple show. And that's a whole nother rant and a whole nother subject. And people are very passionate about their Apple products. And I have no idea why. But I digress. What I'm going to talk about today is boredom. And when I was listening to NPR, and I'm also going to, well, I guess I should also say I'm going to be talking about why I stayed in Des Moines. I was listening to the NPR, and I believe it was Science Friday, which would make sense. They were talking about a scientific study that they did where they took people's, did scans of the brain and then gave them different forms of stimulant. And noticed that when there was no stimulant and they were bored, the front part of the brain, the more creative brain, part of the brain, the default mode, the creativity, the problem-solving part of the brain seemed to light up. And I started thinking about that. That's an interesting subject, and it's been kind of going through my mind a lot lately, and I've been trying to figure out ways of setting aside time where I just have nothing going on. And I'm not talking meditating. I've tried that. It doesn't work for me. It actually, for one reason or another, it makes me stressful. And I have never been able to completely blank my brain out. I'm always thinking about something at all times. Right now, I'm thinking about something else completely different. It's just the nature of me and how my mind works. So, this idea that through boredom, you create creativity, problem solving, and it sparks your imagination. The more I thought about it, the more I already knew this, because I have to say that when I was younger, especially my teenage years, where I was surrounded by people with bad ideas or people that were easily into my bad ideas, we came up with a lot of imaginative ways to entertain ourselves. Sadly, often at other people's expense. I often wondered how we got away with it in the first place. I mean, come on, let's face it. 2 19-year-old dudes come into your shop, or Walgreens, at 1:30 in the morning with funny hair, funny shoes, funny clothes, oddballs, punk rockers. They're buying 3 cans of spray paint and a box of gloves. Chances are you should know they're up to no good. Or, various other stupid things we did back then for entertainment. Growing up here, Des Moines is kind of was a cultural vacuum. It still is to a large degree. If you're between that age of especially 16 and 21, there's very little to do. Even after that, Slipknot always said this all the time in interviews, like, yeah, well, what's in Des Moines? What's going on in Des Moines? And they'd say the number one live entertainment is strip clubs. Looking back on that period of my life up until probably even 10 years ago, yeah, that was the number one and only, in most cases, live entertainment that went on after 9 o'clock at night that you could experience. There was no live venues. And if they did have bands, they were cover bands. Not very good ones. If they were original, they tended to be kind of hippie jam bands, which was something I was not into. That changed. One of the ways I got through that, other than coming up with creative ways to entertain ourselves on the weekend, was traveling to other cities. Des Moines, ideally, and this is one of the reasons why I always stayed here, was you could hop in your car, and anywhere from 2 to 5 hours, you were in the middle of a major metropolitan area. So we'd go to shows in Lawrence, Kansas at the Outhouse, or the Bottleneck, or the Replay, or Liberty Hall. In Kansas City, we'd go see shows there, and the place that stands out is Grand Emporium, Dave's Grand. We'd go to Iowa City to see shows at Gabe's. We'd go to, and there was a couple, Green Room and a couple other places there that did shows. In the hall shows, like there at the Unitarian Church. We'd go to Ames, see shows there during the Ames Music Coalition shows during that time period, where they brought in a lot of bands that played on campus or around the area. We'd go to Omaha and see shows at, the Ranch Bowl eventually, but in Sokol Hall. Before that, Sokol and hall shows, the lift ticket. We'd go to Minneapolis, see shows at 7th Street Entry and First Avenue, and a couple other places that were up there at the time, I think it was Uptown. We'd go to Chicago, we'd see shows at the Aragon Ballroom, we'd see shows at the Cubby Bear. That was a weird experience. Double Door, and some of the venues that were around during that period of time. So, For me, I was still having this massive cultural experience and staying in Des Moines. I just wasn't doing any of it here. When I was first introduced to punk rock and live music as a teenager, it was hall shows, and they were very sporadic, usually maybe one every month, 2 months maybe. Most of them were locally ran shows with local bands. Occasionally there'd be a national act that was coming through the area that somebody had gotten a hold of. There were some larger hall shows that happened later on, like in the late 80s, until Kareem ran out of money. Where he brought in like the Meatmen and Agent Orange and Henry Rollins and all that stuff. But for the most part, they were very sporadic, not consistent, didn't happen very often, and finding out about them was not easy a lot of the times. Very underground, very DIY. Pretty much everybody that was involved, from running the door to booking the bands to making the flyers to distributing the flyers, everything was done by people that were involved in the scene. And most of them, like maybe the oldest person there would be like 22, 23 years old. It was mostly kids. So this philosophy of doing stuff yourself and making things happen on your own has always been a part of me. And that even dates back to before I even discovered the whole punk rock thing. When I was into BMX freestyling and skateboarding, we did demos. And the way we did demos was I would just get the phone book and start calling businesses and go, hey, would you like us to come out and perform tricks on your property for blah, 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 blah. So we got gigs at the Iowa State Fair, and we did these kind of mini tours around central Iowa and the area. But I've always had this philosophy that the only way things happen is if you make them happen. And that comes from boredom and staying in the rocks and gravel. I could have easily moved to a larger city. Well, not easily, but I could have. Could have moved to Los Angeles, where most of the great music I love came from. Could have moved to San Francisco. Could have moved to New York, New Orleans, Austin, even Minneapolis or Chicago. Due to family obligations or my love and care for my family, I stayed here. That was part of it. But part of it was when I visited these cities, often I just realized that there's a percentage of jerks in all populations. And when you get into larger populations, there's even more jerks than there would be in small. But a couple things would have changed. A couple things would have been different in my life. My life would have turned out drastically different for a couple different reasons. First off, I would have never went, I got to do this because no one else is. That would have never occurred to me. Because there would have been 40 people doing it already. I would not have had the strong bonds that I have in friendship with people that I probably wouldn't even have given the time of day to. But because I was stuck in the situation where that was the only people around, and you constantly encountered these people and talked to them, I wouldn't have been exposed to that because I probably would have moved to a large city, gotten in that clique of like-minded people, and stayed in that clique. And not expanded beyond that. So it would have stunted, in a lot of ways, my cultural growth and possibly my intelligence. Piercing-wise, I would have probably, when I first got that passion to do it and so forth, I mean, it came out of a desire to get something pierced, and I couldn't find anybody. And I started researching how to do it, trying to figure out if I could trust somebody else to do it for me or if I could try doing it myself. I had some very encouraging letters and communications with some of the founding fathers of body piercing, and they were great people and still are. Some are a little kooky. But it would have never probably occurred to me if I would have been in New York to go into body piercing, because there would have already been Gauntlet. There already would have been a shop to do it in. I wouldn't have had that drive or desire and realized that there was other people out there with that same desire and pursued it. And that's how I did it. I've learned to react when people tell me it doesn't work here or you can't do that here. I've gained that determination of going, and I've had this since childhood. Why not? Why can't this work here? What is the reason? Now, I'm not going to say everything I've ever done in my life is successful. I think it's successful from what it gave me But if you, the dollars and cents part of it, not so great. But to gain all that freedom, to gain all those experiences, it's been worth it. You know, it's that whole thing with the ant and the grasshopper and everything else. The part they leave out of that is that the ant is doing nothing but working and isn't really experiencing life at all. So he's not living a life. Well, the grasshopper is out there. Yes, he's careless. Yes, he's a problem. He's not thinking about the future, blah, blah, blah. He's not preparing for the future. But at the same time, he's having a good time. And he's experiencing life the way you should. So maybe the grasshopper has a better idea. It all depends on where you're coming from in life. Some people need to prepare. Some people need to be. They need to have all their ducks in alignment. I understand that. And it does. There is a lot of disadvantage to living on the cuff. Or living off the cuff. There's advantages and disadvantages. You always have to weigh those in life and make what works out for you best. So what did we learn today? Sometimes being bored and living in the rocks and gravel leads to very interesting things. It can be motivating factors that are well beyond going out and living in the big city or wherever you need to be. So, that's the rant. Time for the live music. From Des Moines, Iowa. Pop punk band. I think I've seen them before. I've heard them before. It's the first time I found them. They haven't played out, I think, as much lately. We're hoping to change that. Hookshot.
This next song's about drugs. It's not. Tell everybody it is.
the Minneapolis. At least I think they're from Minneapolis, if I remember correctly. Minnesota. R.I. And it's not like R.I. this. It is R as in letter R, I as in letter I. They take a different check on punk rock. They do a more experimental, kind of put me in the mind of some of the Amrep bands. A little bit on the noisy side. But the cool thing about it is they're taking a style and doing their own thing a little bit to it, which makes it interesting. They're not locked into this is what we're going to sound like. And that's where imagination in Boredom, because we've all seen the same boring punk bands that sound all the same. It's bands like this that kind of move that forward and move our way away from it. So anyway, check them out. R.I.
Hey, that guy's the best.
Last but not least, from Lexington, Kentucky, I believe. I could be wrong on this. Look it up. I really don't have the time right now. And it's irrelevant. That's the best part about it. What they do is they take a punk rock structure and they add to it. These guys put me in the mind of a lot of bands that I love. Birthday Party comes to mind at times. I'm sure you can name other bands that have gone in this genre. Valentine's 6, long forgotten band that you can't find anywhere. They take that kind of punk rock structure, that experimental punk rock structure, and then they build on it and add other things. And what comes out is kind of this monkey organ grinder, circus carnival, upbeatish at times music, sometimes really aggressive, like I'm almost a punk rock aggressive, maybe tinges of metal in there, filings, with dark, often very dark lyrics. And they're fun to watch. They're great performers. Without further ado, Ford Theater reunion.
Woo! Anyways, so we wrote this song a while ago. Not that one, this one I'm talking about that we're doing next. That's the one. We wrote this song a while ago and we put it on an EP. The EP is called Transcontinental Bender. And so we wrote this song that is about a transcontinental bender.
What's it called, Alex?
Well,
The name of the song?
it's the song name is,
No, the name of the record.
the name of the song is it's Transcontinental Bender.
Let's hear it for the island Centuria. Let's hear it for the orphan Eritrea. Let's hear it for the Tower, Desert Leaf, and Desert Lost. Rainbow Road, the Double R, and Tatooine. Let's hear it for the things that can't be bought. Let's hear it for the undeniable cost. The hollow mess, those ones we left, those memories lost, but most of all, let's hear it for the world that we forgot. Let's hear it for the world. Let's hear it for the world. Let's hear it for the world. Let's hear it for the accordion solo.
That was for Theartre Reunion. I will be posting more footage of, actually tonight I hope to post a lot of footage before I post this that I haven't gotten around to. Like Matthew James and the Rust Belt Union, I know I need to post that stuff. There's stuff from, there's so many shows, I can't remember them all anymore. Rust Belt Union, Rumble Sea Riot, and St. Christopher. So I'll try to get that up today. I will eventually post more footage of the all three bands you heard today. Support them, check them out on Facebook, check them out on social media. Do what you're supposed to do, which is be intrigued by what you heard and go seek more of it out. Get that thirst. Because we know you've already established that you're going to spend more time getting bored, right? So while you're bored, once you're bored, get on the internet, find out about bands like this. Then go see them. So you're going to go see them, once again, Tuesday, Bruiser Queen and Fia. Well worth it. Not a really expensive show. I think it's, and there are tickets on sale at Midwest Tix. Get a little bit of a discount. I'll be there in all my glory, or diluted glory, depending on who you talk to. Anyway, so that's the end of the vlog. Hopefully this one was shorter than the last one. Only took 2 takes. Only one real interruption because the battery died. As always, subscribe. That's where you're going to get it. Subscribe. If you subscribe, you'll get notifications that when I post new stuff. If you'd like to see more of the vlogs, punch down here. If you'd like to see more of the live music, click on this over here, Lefty's Live Music. If you'd like to learn more about me, click on the link up here for my personal website. Other than that, have a good day. Figure out how to get bored, get creative, go out, have adventures, and enjoy yourself.